About 2 years ago, my flower horn Frank was born. Might have been a little more than 2 years ago. A year and a half ago, or a little more than a year and a half ago, I bought him. When I seen him at the pet store, I knew I had to have him. He was so interactive with me, but I did find myself always explaining that he wasn't exhibiting the traits that you would find desirable in a flower horn. He was like an ugly flower horn with some abnormalities in his body structure that probably he should have ended up being a cull. If you're not familiar with that is, it means that at birth and in the first few months of his life, people should have noticed, the breeder should have noticed some abnormalities in him, and they probably would have killed him or used him as feeders, etc. And this is just not to flood the market with deformed fish and whatnot. I know that that sounds cruel, but it happens in absolutely every type and species of fish before it gets to the pet store or whatever the case might be. Culls do happen. So he didn't have the greatest coloration, didn't have the largest nuchal hump, he didn't have the greatest amount of flowers, they weren't in perfect shape or a straight line of them. A number of things like that, and he had a distended belly. That was the biggest problem. His rib cage was absolutely massive, and this was because I believe he was kind of like a short body flower horn, where I'm sure you've seen balloon mollies and balloon rams and like short bodied fish that are all compressed. Well, their insides are still the same size, but their body is jammed closer, so these fish tend to have a much shorter lifespan. Another topic that I'd like to touch base on before we move any further, and this isn't to make excuses, but it's something that I've never talked about, and I don't hear many people talking about it, but the flower horn is a hybrid. It's a man-made fish. These are not found in the wild at all. The fish that they're made up of are not even from the same areas, even close to it. But when flower horns were first introduced to the hobby, they were robust, very resistant, just very healthy, strong, easy to keep fish, and very new, very beautiful in my opinion, but still a hybrid. As time goes by though, fast forwarding time 10 years, flower horns got higher and higher quality, more and more line bred, and basically their genetics are weakening over time, lifespans shortening, once living for 8 to 12 years, now living from 2 to 5 years type of deal. And it's an unfortunate thing, and it's something that a lot of flower horn keepers don't talk about. I think it's something a lot don't know about, but it certainly is the case. And I know there's going to be tons of people in the comments that says my flower horn's 8 years old or 10 years old. I'm not talking about 10 years ago, a decade or 15 years ago. I'm talking about more recent times. We're going to jump right into this. I hope that you guys watch the whole video, because near the end there's a few important things that I want to talk about. September 15th, we're going to be looking at a lot of videos. They're all on my phone. I was documenting a lot of this just to see progression in him. I didn't think this would be a video of any sort, so I didn't grab a regular camera, and I didn't document everything. But on September 15th, I noticed for the first time in history, Frank wouldn't eat. He was swimming around normally, he was happy, he was with Francine, she was eating, everything checked out with the aquarium, temperature, the quality of it, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, the TDS, which is total dissolved solids, everything about the aquarium matched everything else in the gallery. So no red flags went up. I thought, okay, he's just not hungry, maybe something's up with him. I thought, well, maybe it's diet, but he gets such a varied diet, there's no way he's going to get bored of it. He gets a little bit of everything from veggies to high protein pellets to medium quality pellets to you name it, frozen foods. You guys have seen everything I feed him. But on September 15th, that was the first time he stopped eating. So Frank, being such a robust fish, it's not unlike him to be able to survive upwards of a month or even 6 weeks without eating. No problem. Lots of big fish are conditioned to be able to do that. It's the tinier tetras that, you know, they might be able to go a week without food, but then they're going to perish and kind of die. But bigger fish have tons of fat, especially the flower horn where it has that big nuchal hump. They could survive for quite a while. September 30th, I noticed he was beginning to get useless. Now, all throughout this time, I'm just upping my water changes to every day, trying to see if he'll come around. Maybe there's something in the water or something going on that I can flush out. Francine is as active as ever, but Frank is acting a little less a little listless, not as active as he typically was. After 2 weeks of not eating, I thought his belly would have kind of shrunk, but this is a side effect to a man-made fish like flowerhorn. That is like Frank, that's a flowerhorn that is almost a short body. Everything's compressed into one little region. When you're creating a short-bodied fish, their organs remain the same as a full-size fish that's just compressed into a much smaller area. Lifespans are cut in half. There's going to be health difficulties down the road. These are things we don't think about when we see this cute little fat fish like a balloon molly or, you know, a short-bodied ram or a balloon ram or short-bodied flowerhorns. You know what I mean. And it's just, it's an unfortunate thing that we don't think about that when it comes. And I'm not necessarily against them. It's just that most people aren't aware that these fish have the same size organs as everybody else. It's just compressed into a much smaller area, and health problems will arise because of it. On the 15th day, I noticed he also had a prolapsed anus. His anal tube was protruding out of his body. This can sometimes be confused as a breeder tube, where cichlids can drop those every once in a while when they're getting ready to breed. But I've seen that many times and bred plenty of cichlids to know that this is a sign of a couple of things. One of three things probably. One, he's got an internal bacterial infection or some sort of an internal problem. He might have parasites, or he might be constipated. So I approach him as such. See, when he was passing feces, it was a clear, it was just a clear film that was coming out of him, indicating to me that it was more closely related to parasites or some sort of a bacterial infection. Parasites didn't seem possible. There's been no fish and no equipment been used, new fish or no new equipment been used on that tank since Francine was added months prior. And she was properly quarantined for 6 weeks. So I never thought parasites, but you still need to treat them. So I was treating the tank for parasitic infection to see if that would help. His condition simply just worsened every day. The biggest problem is that he wasn't eating. But Frank was hanging out at the top of the water, his nuchal hump hanging out the top. Now, when a flowerhorn gets sick, their nuchal humps will deflate almost all the time. They will deflate, they get it back, but it will deflate. It's just, a lot of times they call it a watercock. There's not actually water in it, but they can deflate and increase back in size once they're healthy again. The size of a nuchal hump is largely based off genetics. It has nothing to do with the actual flowerhorn. So Frank always had poor genetics. He just didn't have a large nuchal hump, but he had plenty of chins. More on that in the future, where we can end this on a bright note. Parasitic medication wasn't doing anything. I began approaching it as a bacterial, using antibacterial medications, and sometimes even some antifungal. We did some Epsom salt dips, just basically doing what we could to save the fish. Now, I know lots of people are going to say you should have brought him to a veterinarian. We talked about this in a past video where there isn't any, and when there is fish problems, I'm usually the one that's called. But I'm really limited to diagnosing a fish based on experience and available medications. But my experience is only going to take me so far. If the medications aren't working, then I'm diagnosing wrong or I'm medicating inappropriately. So that's where these microscopes came into play. I really wanted to know what was happening to him. I took scrapings of him. I took some of his feces. I put them under the slides and microscopes. I did an oil immersion for... I did whatever I could. I spent over $1,000 trying to save a $50 fish. And it's not about the money to me. It was feeling hopeless and helpless, like I should have already had things like this, and I don't want it to come across like every hobbyist should have microscopes and, you know, anything along those lines. But I have so many fish, and so many people watch me. It's just beneficial to, if I do come across something, to be able to show you under a microscope based on a couple things. One, it's educational. Two, just downright interesting. Unfortunately, I didn't have this little thing at the time, so I couldn't record what I was seeing. But it was uneventful anything. The slides and microscopes came up clear. There's no parasites and nothing bacterial that I could see at all. Everything looked fine. I compared it to Francine's as well. This led me to believe that his abnormal belly is finally catching up with him. Like I've mentioned in the past, fish like Frank usually don't make it past the culling process. Francine was perfectly fine. Frank was kind of responding to treatment. You see, there was days when he would be a little bit better. He'd start mouthing food, spit it out. Francine acting completely normal the entire time. I decided to keep her in the tank to not cause stress to Frank and then treat that entire tank. So she was being treated in case she had something. But it turns out Frank was simply terminal with his belly. There wasn't going to be anything I could do besides there was a point where I wanted to put him down. I'm just going to admit that now. I thought, like, he's not going to be able to be saved. He's going to pass away. I can euthanize him myself. He wouldn't even know what was happening. And that came to a point in time when he was face down in the tank. See, at first when his nuchal hump was above the water surface, I knew that we're going to have some deflating. He's going to look really bad. But when he started hanging face up, I knew that death was imminent within the next few days. And unfortunately, on October 23rd, Frank did pass away. There's a part of this story I'm leaving out. And I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to play the blame game. But while I was away on October 19th, Frank was pretty sick. He was doing well. He was very much better than what he was in the past. And on October 19th, I went down to New Jersey to meet a lot of you guys. I returned home on the 22nd, I believe. And while I was gone, my wife was taking care of Frank. Not much to screw up there, but she was saying, just blame it on me. I probably screwed something up, and there wasn't much to screw up, just some basic water changes. I'm thinking maybe the water temperature was too high or too low, but I showed her how to do everything before I left. Everything was laid out perfectly. I don't think she did anything wrong, but I guess I should include that as a possibility. I come home, Frank's just in pretty bad condition. By the next day, he was dead. I found him floating in the tank, removed him, and luckily the ground's not frozen out here, so I buried him out back. I didn't want this video to be too dramatic about what had happened. These things happen in the hobby. I did my best, even going as far as buying microscopes, and these are going to prove to be beneficial in the future. But over the past 11 years of making videos, I've documented absolutely every aspect of my hobby. Over 1,000 fish been on this channel, and lost 10. So 1% in 11 years. I know it seems as though lots of fish on this channel die, but that's because I document everything, and whenever I make a video about a fish dying or something happening, YouTube picks it up and runs with it. It gets tons of views, millions. It's incentive to always tell the truth, always show everything. But perhaps that's a video we can touch base on in the future, is to kind of go over and document all the fish that have passed away in my care during the course of the past 11 years, which I must say, I probably killed more fish in my first month in the hobby than I killed in the past 10 years. It's not funny, but it just puts things into perspective versus when new hobbyists are getting into the hobby with the ammonia, the nitrogen cycle, killing lots of fish. Anyways, Frank's gone, and it's unfortunate because Frank was uber popular. I never seen that coming. This is how I want to end this video. I'm not sad about Frank passing away. I'm frustrated and mad, and I'm sad I lost him, but I'm very happy I had him. And I'm very happy that we got to experience what was Frank. Oh boy. I waited a while so I wouldn't be upset on video, but what I'm going to tell you guys here, nobody's ever noticed. Nobody's ever said anything, and maybe he's did, but I never seen it. I got Frank a year and a half ago, maybe a little over a year and a half. Prior to that, go watch my videos and who I was as a person and how I talked and how I made videos, etc., etc. Never excited about anything. Very methodical and robotical, very planned, very scripted, very boring. Then I got Frank and I laughed on camera for the first time. I realized it was okay to be excited about the aquarium hobby. It's okay to be excited about something as silly as fish tanks. I realized that moving forward, that it was okay to be myself, or more so closer to myself. I curse a lot in person, so that's one of the only things I hold out is the cursing. Everything else is pretty much me. I know lots of kids watch, so and I met many of you guys in person, and the demographics of this channel is dramatic, from young children to older adults. So I try to be as PG as I can. I know sometimes I cross the line here and there, but it's never that bad. When I got Frank for the first time, though, I laughed on camera for the first time, and you guys loved it. You just loved the way that video went. Moving forward, because of Frank, I changed who I was and who I was going to be on this channel. I think that's pretty important to talk about. Because if it wasn't for Frank, and you think about it, before Frank, I think I only had maybe, and this was only a year and a half ago, I only had, was it a year and a half ago? Almost 2 years ago? I don't know. It was before the gallery, I know that. Anyways, I only had maybe 150, 200,000 subscribers. Frank comes along, got 1.1 million. Frank did a lot for the flower horn hobby, even though when Frank was first introduced, the flower horn hobby refused him because of his poor genetics and poor looks. I know a lot of them will say they don't now because they're worried about Frank's fans, but Frank took some heat. Frank brought a tremendous amount of attention to the flower horn hobby, and everybody wanted a flower horn. Everybody wanted a flower horn. Everybody was naming their flower horns, and everybody was saying how much better they were than Frank. I didn't care about that. I just loved the fact that Frank was inspiring so many other people, love him or hate him, love or hate me. Frank was the first fish that I publicly named or said their name on camera as well. Frank made naming fish fun. Frank made it okay to have relationships with fish. I will admit that at first I was frustrated about Frank. I hated the fact that he was getting all the attention, and I had like Buddy, my Asian arowana, who I loved, that never got nearly as much love as that, or any of the other cool fish that I have. And I just never understood it at first. But I guess I can understand why other people don't see why he's so popular either. In my opinion, Frank's popular because he's just fun. It was fun to make fun of him. It was fun to pretend to be him. If you're not following Frank on Instagram, he has 14,000 fans. He's never made a post. He just trolls me. The memes about Frank were killing me. I loved it. I mean, it just opened up a whole new niche in the hobby for me. And moving forward, it would be difficult to replace him, but this is where you guys could get mad. We can't get mad at how he died. There's nothing I could have done about his, his health problems and what he was predispositioned to. And he lived a good life, didn't he? Anyways, I went to the pet store one day, and I decided they had some flower horns. They had 4. I seen one that kind of looked like Frank. I decided, no, I can't get Frank. I can't get a look-alike. I don't want to replace Frank. What I would like to do is select a flower horn with the proper traits. An elongated body, proper finnage, a nice nuchal hump, most importantly, a proper rib cage, and not a short body. There was 4, and I picked one of them. I got him a month and a half ago or something along those lines. Quarantined him for 4 weeks, and a couple of weeks ago, and that's why you guys can't see Francine's tank or his knit tank, but there's an egg crate in there. Some of you spotted that, but he's in there with her now. Part of me regrets buying him because I feel like I'm replacing Frank. The other side of me thinks it's a good idea to to remember him like that. I'm going to introduce you guys to him tomorrow. They're getting moved to a tank. They're going to be introduced to each other for the first time. This time, they are the same size. Frank and Francine were never going to breed. He was too big for her. He would have eventually killed her. Plus, his lifespan was, by the time she was sexually mature, he would have passed away anyways. I estimate, when I originally got him, I thought, I'll probably get 3 years out of this guy. Just because of his abdomen. 2 years, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I guess that's it for Frank. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Let me know. I hope that you guys watch the video fully so you could understand what truly actually transpired and what happened. I know there's going to be tons of assumptions and accusations and all kinds of stuff, and a part of me thinks like criticism's fine. But then another part of me thinks like, and this is going to sound ignorant, but sometimes people judge me and they've never owned the type of fish that I've ever kept. You wouldn't believe the people that tell me how to keep Asian arowana and stingrays, and I've never even seen one in person. But I can assure you that Frank was in good hands. I did what I could, and if I could have saved him, or if anything else could have been done, it would have been done. To have Frank pass away is a bad idea. People love Frank. I love Frank. I miss joking about him. I miss making posts with him. I miss talking like him. And I think that many of you guys will miss him as well. But I'll introduce you guys to the new people soon. I don't want to cloud Frank's memory with other fish in this video today. I was going to, but we'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. So some of you guys are right. Frank is dead. I'd appreciate if you just left kind messages for Frank, or maybe a joke, maybe troll him a little bit, but certainly don't leave mean comments. It sucks to lose a pet. It's even worse when you're in the public eye and you have a pet that was so popular and meant so much to so many people that you're not doing anything good. I can assure you won't get a response from me. And I'll say it for the first time on this channel that I won't tolerate anything like that. It will be your first and last comment on this channel. I wouldn't go to your Facebook page or your personal page when your dog died and say mean things to you, or your animal died. And if you don't like what I'm doing, don't watch anymore. Unsubscribe, whatever people on YouTube do. But if you want to meet the new guys, stick around, we'll do it tomorrow. I have mixed emotions right now. I'm upset. I haven't talked to anybody about this. Talking about it's making me mad. It's making me sad, regretful. Why didn't I see it sooner? Just double questioning things. But I've been doing this too long to know that I didn't do anything wrong. I could have lied and said I give him away, or somebody bought him, or offered me $10,000 for him, etc., 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 and nobody would have known the difference. I decided to tell the truth. See you tomorrow.